you guys. This week we're going to be doing something slightly different, and we might even have our new little friend with us. Let's get into it. So, if you can't tell by the bark, I'm in the process of getting ready to make some live edge tables. First thing I do when I'm looking at them is I look for stuff like that wormhole, or on this piece we've got a crack right here. This one also has a crack down there, and we got the other two right there, which that one's going to need a lot of work in through there. I haven't even looked at the other side or on the bottom yet. Well, I'm thinking about it. So, did you guys know that you can support me for not spending a cent by hitting the like button, subscribing, and sharing my videos? Doesn't cost you a cent. Helps the algorithm see me a whole lot more, and it's totally free for you. It just takes 3 clicks. Just wanted to throw that out there. Thanks. Bye. The other thing to keep in mind when you grab one of these, sorry, I'm trying to keep my light from doing the sparkly stuff. You should always let your wood sit for at least a week or two if you can, because sometimes you'll buy it, it looks perfect, you get it home, and within a couple days it starts to split. That's just due to natural wood movement, and sometimes, you know, if it gets a little wet when you bring it home, like it's in the bed of a truck and it gets snowed on, sometimes when it dries it'll cause issues like that. So I'm going to show you one of my tricks to help get rid of those, and once we get done with that, I also have a little round piece. It's actually, of the 4 I've got, my favorite, and I just found it because I've also got these tiny little 2-inch legs that I've got 3 more of them that are ready to go. So in the end of this one, we're gonna work on the other little round for the mini table, because I can actually get that done in about a day and a half, because it's been here for about 6-7 weeks. No real issues on it, so it's just a bunch of sanding at this point and applying some finish. I'm gonna show you guys how I do my best to seal on bark. It doesn't always work, but yeah. So we're gonna start with these boards. I gotta go set up on another table and find a tripod or something for this, and then we're gonna play with some resin, get these things sealed up, and yeah, I'm hoping to have the bigger ones ready by the end of the week, but it might be Sunday, which for me is the first day, so yeah. So with that said, I'm gonna go grab what we need, and next time I see you, we'll be on the glue up table, because it's where I pour a lot of my resin too, because if it's, I figure mess one up and keep everything else looking good. All right, and we are back. So this is my big piece of hickory. It's about 2 inches thick. This is definitely going to be the heavier of the couple tables I'm working on. But this crack through here, little crack in there, we got to get these sealed up. So I thought I had some, but if I do, I can't find it. But I usually try to use resin-proof tape. But since I can't find any, we're just going to use some regular all white masking tape, mainly because it's what I have. Now with resin, it does like to leak and get loose. So I do like to put a lot extra on. For this one, I think that's all we're gonna need to fix up. I do have a couple other tables I'm gonna try to get knocked out today with doing this, but I think just for time's sake, I'm gonna try to keep this to just this one for you guys. because I got 3 others I got to tape off and pour resin on, and they're all going to have to get stacked on top of this tape. So with that said, we're going to raise our camera up a little bit. That's that. I apologize for any excess bouncing. Oh, okay. My mount just broke loose. I'll be right back. And we're back. The joys of using a relatively inexpensive plastic table. Now for these, I don't think we're going to need much. Resin is a 2-part mix for most of them. Ones I'm using is just by a company called Let's Resin. I just dropped my cup and I'm not going to go digging for it. By the way, under this bin and everything else is all of my clamps. So it fell down in between those, so I ain't gonna dig it out. I'll grab it later. That's what I thought. And this is a 1-ounce cup. So I'm gonna see if this will work. To help me see. I do not recommend doing this over your phone, but well, if you haven't figured out by now, I'm a little crazy. All right. All right. And there's a 1/2 ounce of A. The resin I'm using is a 1-to-1 mix ratio, so it's, you know, if you put in a 1/2 ounce like I just did of A, you put in a 1/2 ounce of B, which is this. Usually I do it backwards because I prefer to mix A over B because A usually sinks through, and I think it helps mix it a little quicker, but to each their own. All right. Okay. That light on the bottom really does help, so if you're ever doing this, if you got a flashlight, you can shine it behind it and it'll really help you be able to see what's going on. For the sake of these tables and simplicity, I'm not going to add any color, but that is always an option as well if you ever want to be like, oh, you know, I think it'd look good with a splash of red here, or like this blue, I really want like a neon blue effect. Sorry for that crack there. If you wanted to do that, I mean, there's no real right or wrong answer to stuff like that. And then just mix this up. These cups aren't great for mixing when you fill them all the way up, but it can be done. Try not to do what I just did, and you should also be wearing gloves. I just forgot to grab them. This is all going to get sanded off anyway, so what I'll do when I'm done filling these voids is come by with a clean stick like this, because I've got quite a few of them, and I'll just get that as down as smooth as possible. I'm also probably, I don't know if you guys can see it, but up further, yeah, you can't. There's a few low saw marks up there that I'm gonna pour a little resin over. And this is just what I do if anytime I've got a slab of any size to fill in cracks or voids. Sometimes I'll mix up a different color and put in there, like I said, too. I don't think I have any that have pictures of stuff I've done with them before, because I am relatively new to doing this. I've only done a handful of slabs like this, because I mean, they ain't cheap. This particular one cost me about $70. For the size, I can't complain though, because it is decent sized. Now, I can't do this looking through the screen because I just tried it and I got all disorientated. So we're just gonna pour this in there. And one of the tricks I found, go slow. Give it a chance to really seep in. And then as you see it start to fill, I like to chase it a little bit. Can't tell, I do concentrate a little bit when I'm doing this. Now, like I said, clean stick. We're just gonna, I don't want anything sticking up too high. We'll also use this to press it down in there. A little bit more in that crack. Alright, cool. This is leaving me with a lot more than I was expecting, so I'm going to do the other couple off camera as soon as we're done filling this one up. It is not a bad idea to let it sit a little bit proud, meaning a little bit higher than where you're filling to, for the simple fact that if it's higher, it's easy. It's not that hard to sand it down. But if it's too low, you really should just add more resin. And this stuff will take about 12 hours to set up to where I'm willing to pull this tape off, and sanding takes a little bit longer than that. But that was all the cracks I saw on this one. So I'm gonna put the others on here after I get them taped up, and then we're going to go back in. And the mini table I told you guys we're actually going to work on, I did do the first first round of sanding right before I started this. It's not going to be anything super, I mean, it literally takes about 30 seconds to go over both sides, spray it with water, and let it dry. So I'll probably time lapse through that. And I just found some sanding mesh that I can get up to 400 grit, so I'm gonna try that. And with everything else, I usually stop at 320, but if I can get to a higher grit, I try to, because it doesn't necessarily make it smoother to the feel. I think it makes it look a little better the higher grit you go. Sorry, this one crack looks like it's not quite full. And I just noticed a little one here. Then I'm just gonna let that work its way in. And if I can, and I have the extra resin, I'm gonna hit all this with it just to try. So I try to minimize how much I gotta sand off, but I got a feeling I'm gonna have to take a lot more out than I want to, because this one is feeling kind of rough. But hey, it happens. Next time I can afford a couple slabs, we're gonna do a river table too. But that takes about depends on how big you make it, but usually at least a gallon of resin. So yeah, I'm gonna get these other couples. I'm gonna do exactly this. We're gonna double check and make sure that nothing leaks. I'm gonna take this freehand for a second, because you can already kind of see where it's coming out at the bottom. That's why at the joint I double layered it so it's less likely to leak there. And yeah, so there's that, and I'll see you guys in a bit. And we are back. So that's almost finished drying. Backside is definitely a little wetter. Usually what I do when I'm doing this is go through and sand off, or sand it, water pop it, sand it, water pop it, sand it, water pop it after every grit. But today I'm in a bit of a hurry because I want to get this done and have it ready for tomorrow. And I got to be somewhere this evening. So I'm trying to figure out where I put my sanding mesh. Alright, so I've already hit this with the 80 grit. At least I thought it was 80 grit. It was 80 grit, okay. So there's 80. So it's 80, 120, 220, 400, I believe it is. No, 120, 180, 220, and it should be 400, I think. All right. That's all those. That's the one I've already used. And there's a brand new set too. Sanding mesh is a little nicer than regular sandpaper because it, instead of having to line up holes every time, you just slap it on and go. And makes life a little easier. Saves a little time too. I'm gonna move you guys around a little bit, so don't mind the wild ride. It's gonna make this a little easier for me to reach it and not ram into you guys. I haven't used this rig in a while, so all right. So even though this is still a little damp, what I'm gonna do is just hit this real quick. I am gonna pop this into a time lapse, and I'm not gonna spray it in between. I'm just gonna hit it right before I hit the 400, and then I use these little painter's pyramids. I just put 3 of them underneath so it holds it up so it gets airflow on top and bottom. You guys will see those here in a few minutes, but for me it'll be tomorrow because I've got to let this thing dry. And then I'm going to show you guys how to apply wipe-on polyurethane, and also how I try to seal in as much bark as I can get. One of the biggest steps before you start that is just go through and knock off as much loose as you can find. If you don't want any bark at all, you can throw it on a wire wheel on a grinder. There's a little bit left. There's a soft spot. But you can take that off the grinder, or a grinder with the wire wheel. If you're brave enough to use a chainsaw disc, those work fairly well, but I think they do more damage. I'm also too scared of them because all it takes is one link failing and you have a chainsaw blade going flying, and God only knows what direction going about. I think my grinder does almost 20,000 RPM, 30,000 RPM, something like that. So yeah, it'll do some damage if it hits you. But for now, we're just gonna sand this up, and we'll get her ready for finish tomorrow. And hopefully we can get those 3 legs on tomorrow as well. I've got 3 other mini tables like this. I like using them for stuff like, you know, if you're sitting at your desk and you want something higher for a drink or a pen cup. The other 2 legs I was trying to remember where I put. So I was counting them up and I was too short for 4 tables. I'd be 4 short if you want 4 legs on each, but I don't think that's necessary because these aren't going to hold a lot of weight. But I can't get these in other wood varieties and species. But yeah, so with that said, I'm just going to throw this in a time lapse because I feel like I'm starting to get to the point of rambling. So we'll get that. And at the end of the time lapse, you might see this bottle come out. This is just water. I'll get it pretty wet and then do my thing. But yeah, so, oh, and one other thing before I forget. Like I said, this has been with me for a couple weeks, or what did I say, about 2 months, I think. 6 weeks, 2 months, somewhere around in there. You'll note there's 0 cracking anywhere. Otherwise, I would have done the same thing with the resin to fill the cracks and the voids in that. Since that wasn't necessary, or since there's no cracks, it's not necessary. Hence why we skipped that step. So, I'm done talking. Time lapse. We're gonna get this thing knocked out. And I might start recording the drilling of the almost 180 pins for the season that I'm starting right now. Yay. Alright. Time lapse, here we go. And now, instead of paint drying, it's water. And we're back. We are going to do the last sand on this, and then for a transition for you guys, but it's going to be overnight for me. We're going to show you guys how I do the wipe on polyurethane. And yeah. So we'll get that done first thing tomorrow morning. And by tomorrow evening, we'll be putting legs probably on this side. Just looking at it, still a little rough there. There's more rough on that side. I could sand it more, but you know, when I'm doing stuff for me, I tend to do it a little quicker. And I kind of like the way it looks sometimes. And if I don't like it, then I just take it off. Or if you have something against it, if you want one of these, you know, just say the word and it comes off. But looks like a crack opened up. Sometimes when you wet them down, they will split if you heat them up too quick. And in that time lapse, the little red thing that was sitting at the top of the screen was in fact a little propane heater that's sitting next to me that I won't leave this room with it running. So yeah. So with that, we're just going to go over this real quick, just so I can show you guys about how long it really does take to sand these, as long as you're not taking stuff like that off. If you're taking this out, that's when it takes a bit longer. And I would usually use a belt sander for that. That's one side. And that's all it takes for both sides to get that last smoothing finish on it. And yeah, so I'm just gonna let this sit here on my little painter's pyramids for now. And I'm gonna grab one other thing real quick. And tomorrow, while we are putting on finish, when we're done, it should look like that. This one is significantly bigger too. Oh, and I got a little split there I didn't see before. That should be okay though. But yeah, so I will see you guys tomorrow morning. And we are back. So we're getting ready to do the polyurethane, or wipe on polyurethane, and spraying the two ends. I did cheat last night and put the rest of these together, so I got all the legs and stuff on them. We're doing that later though on this one. So I'm gonna get my drills out of the way. Got to get some gloves on. Back this up a little bit because I can have a little more room to see. Now I do prefer like using ketchup bottles in the lake instead of the cans the wipe on poly comes in. Let me just shake it up. Grab a clean rag. And I just take this and give it a liberal coating. It's the best part right here is the initial finish of application. And we just wipe it on. Doesn't take much. Flip that over. Alright, so that's that. Thread. Whenever you're doing this, I'm not sure if the wipe on poly can, but I know certain wood finishes can actually self-combust. So I'll take that outside, lay it flat on the middle of my driveway or cement pad somewhere. I let it go for a couple days, make sure it doesn't because if you crumple them up and throw them out, it can actually potentially cause a fire. I've heard of people burning their shops down from doing stuff like that. They also make like metal cans you can throw it in, so that way if it does light, it only burns up the air in the can. But that's how we do the top edges. Now for the sides, I use a spray can of polyurethane. I'll apologize for the noise, because I really don't want to cover my drill. It's behind there with any major overspray. I'm just going to hold this. Set that down, flip this over. Now I do try to do multiple coats of these. The instructions say 2 minimum, but you gotta wait about 2 to 3 hours between coats, depending on temperature, and it is a little cold in here, so I'm actually gonna turn on a space heater to keep it warm, or to warm it up a little bit. And I'm gonna set an alarm for about, I got a phone call in 3 hours, so I'll probably be back in about 4 hours. We'll hit this with a light sanding. I highly recommend a sanding block like this. I've already got my 220 grit sandpaper on here. It just velcros on just like it would a regular orbital sander, because that's all this pad is from. You just go over it real quick. I mean, it's, I usually do back and forth one way, that, and a quick circle around it. on both sides, wipe it off with a little isopropyl alcohol. Which reminds me, I gotta make sure I have that. That's a water bottle. This is one of the rare times you'll find I forget to label something as the 2 bottles I have in here. So while I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna label this right now, since I have a marker in my pocket because I'm getting ready to go out and cut some pen blanks. And that's how you can tell it's alcohol for me, because I like putting booze instead of alcohol because I think it's funnier. And I also like to label the top of the spray bottles too. It's like water, I just put H2O. In the other room I also have acetone in another one. But yeah, so I got a bigger bottle of water to mark up too. I don't usually use the bigger ones for anything but water, but I'm weird and just like to have things labeled. So there's that. Later on this evening I am going to start working on some sorry, my dog's being weird. I'm going to start working on my bigger tables too once this is dried up, because I want to try to get some of those ready to rock and roll for the weekend. I should have some more legs coming today or tomorrow to get all 4 of them ready. And yeah, so that's where we're at. I'll see you guys in about 4 hours for me. And we are back. It's been about 3.5 hours, a little longer than it should have been, but I had a phone call I had to take and just finished lunch. So we are going to give this a quick sand down and reapply on the wipe on polyurethane. We're going to spray the bark again. Can't really sand that, so I just build it up. So yeah, get these off of those painter's pyramids though. Just hit that. And this is all the more it takes. You just want to rough it up a little bit. Itty bitty swirls. And like I said before, I want to hit the first one with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. So we'll just wipe that off. This is just pure dust mitigation. Flip that side over. All of it off. We're going to give that about a minute or two to flash off or dry. So I'm going to hang on to that rag because it's just alcohol and it'll be dry within another minute or two. So we're just going to pre-shake everything while we let the alcohol dry. Sure what I just heard. Alright, so you don't have to be as generous on the second coat because this is just building up on top of where we've already started. As my dog starts scratching an itch again. Alright, and we just smear that around. Throw that rag on the cement floor outside. This is already pretty well shook, so we're just gonna I do recommend the gloves as well. Your hands will get super sticky if you do this without them, and I don't like being sticky. So we're gonna do one more coat after this, and then I gotta go run some stuff out to a store to restock. So I will see you guys in another transition. Real quick, I just popped in while this is drying just to check out how it's looking. I don't think we're gonna need a third coat, so we're just gonna put legs on about, that'll be about 5 or 6 o'clock my time. It should be pretty well sealed up. More than one coat's never a bad idea, but I also want to try to have the recording of this done today so I can get edited and uploaded for Friday. So that's the other consideration I have. So yeah, just want to throw that out there. All right, folks, I am back. It has been well over 3 hours since I spoke with you last, at least for me. I know it probably doesn't feel that way for you guys, but it's the truth. Don't mind my sense of humor there. So I forgot I was out in the barn working, and I got a Bluetooth that's dying in my ear. So while I take that out, we're just gonna chit chat. So for this, we are going to add our last 3 2-inch legs to this. And one thing I learned from my boy Adam Savage is whenever you're putting something on that is absolutely critical where things get placed, don't drill both holes first. Drill your first hole, run the screw. Once you see where it's going to be in the final position, that's when you drill your other hole. And for the pilot holes I'm drilling, I'm not actually worried about going too deep. I just want to get a good starting point for that screw, so that way it's less likely to split this, because if you don't pre-drill, especially on thinner end grain, which I mean this is about 3/4 of an inch thick, it can split. So yeah, sorry, I just ran in from the outside, got down here with dodging my dog because it's fun. All right, so the next step is take a look at it, figure out which side you want the top to be. It's got a little booger on that side, so this is going to be our bottom. So a lot of times what I like to do is just try to roughly lay out where you want your legs. The more spread out they are, especially going on that end, the more stable it'll be. And you want to get this one as close to the edge as you can, but you also want to make sure you can drill down and not blow through the bottom. Although that bark will do a pretty good job at hiding that if you do. So now we got these positioned. We just run a little, like I said, I don't have to worry about going too deep. Just enough to be able to get most of these screws in there. Let's get rid of your sawdust. You can also blow on it, but I get winded too easy from running in cold air, so I'm taking it easy for a minute with the lung capacity. Really don't recommend getting asthma. It's not as much fun as you've heard. Now we want to get a drill bit in my other drill. All right, that's full speed. We're going to clutch this down to 5. If you don't know what a clutch is, it's these numbers here. So like this is, the drill symbol is usually full on. It'll go unless you don't hold it, but like if you set it down at 6, makes it sound like an impact, but it actually, what it's doing is not allowing it to go past a certain torque, which is honestly great for running screws. unlike an impact driver that just goes balls to the wall full power. So yep, that holds nice and tight, which is what I wanted to check. So I do have two versions of these little drills. This one's the brushed version. Doesn't have quite as much power as the other ones, but hey, they're really nice too. I've been hesitant for a while, but I've been needing some better 12 volt stuff for smaller projects. So I figured what the heck, we'll give it a try. I'm loving these Milwaukees. And for this one, I'm just gonna, that leg's gonna force me to go in at a little bit of an angle. But it's not too bad. And even just pushing them in, or putting the screws in, I find that if you put them in a little bit of an angle, especially on end grain, which is what this is, sometimes they'll hold just a little bit better. I mean, these things ain't anything fancy, they're just little 5/8. I think they're interiors. Are these interior? No, I have to know. Interior used zinc coating for wood, masonry, sheet metal, drywall, and plastic. So, and they are specs if anybody cares, because I know some people are real into their different nuts and bolts and screws and the like. Personally, I don't care as long as they hold. I do prefer anything but a Phillips or flat. Well, I won't buy flatheads, but I really don't care for Phillips either. Robertson or square drives are much better. Torques are even better, star drives, as some other people call them. But that's our legs on. Here's our table. We're gonna move the guys down a bit. Sorry, I bumped the button and didn't have another hand to unbump it. But there we go. That's our little mini table. And if you, my little test to see how stable it is try to put something heavier on the other end. A big jug of water. There it is. There's about a little over 40 ounces of water on that side. I think that one's going to be fairly good. A few of them I didn't get them over far enough, and well, it's part of the learning process. So that's how we do the mini table. Again, don't judge me, I've been in and out all day switching out hats and stuff. I think I had a different one on yesterday. But yeah, so I'm gonna go run a couple of these to the store, as well as restock a few things I just saw that sold. And we are gonna, yeah, can't think of anything else I'm gonna do tonight. So with that, I will say cat in the hat and dappy dat.